Shut up and sit down.
That's awesome.
Hey, it's where the big boys play. SICW.
To count us in, and we'll get this shit going.
Welcome to Scrubby Podcast, everybody. Episode number 72. If you enjoy what we're doing, like and subscribe. Hit that button. Make a comment. Do something to get the algorithm out to get us out there. Now that we have that crap out of the way, what's going on, Jim? What's going on, Bobby?
I'm working on my buddy from Hollow Sky to try to get us to do a wrestling haunt thing. Have us go along with them. They just bought $2,000 worth of new cameras that he said they need to use. So
nice.
Let's use them.
Walmart and Target and all them are already starting to put out Halloween decorations, even though it's still July.
My TikTok feed, I just watched a thing from them opening Spirit Halloween stores and pulling out the new merchandise. A lot of t-shirts I'm going to have to go get.
Crazy.
Leave them open year round.
It looks like Art the Clown is the big craze this year.
Oh, yeah.
From Terrifier.
Have you seen any of those movies?
I have. I've let Landon watch them too.
What?
Yeah, the first one, there was the one scene where she's hanging upside down and gets sawed in half. That one probably wasn't the best scene for him to watch, but still a good movie.
Just give him nightmares.
Nah. Kill him.
That's one of the things I remember as a childhood, being left alone, being of age, 12, 13, and watching, all the Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and all that stuff. And that was definitely my thing to watch right before you go to bed. That's the best time.
Well, that's what the youngest, he was 7 or 8 when he started wanting to watch horror movies. And it's like, well, we have to wait till it gets dark. So, of course, right before bed. Can't watch them in the daylight. But I showed him Friday the 13th, the original one, and he was so bored during it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the graphics and everything did not translate well over time.
Well, actually,
they seem more in school than what's in that movie.
Yeah, honestly, the only one that might is the whole Freddy versus Jason.
That was more action.
That might carry over.
I said that movie was more action than horror, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of like that one, though.
No, it wasn't bad if you want a good slash 'em up movie.
Well, there was talks about a sequel to that one, or even throwing Michael Myers into that equation. But I don't know. I read a thing a long time ago. Those were like 2 of those movies are owned by the same company now. After they bought and sold a few times, and then one of them now is not part of the same umbrella. So it's all kinds of messed up. But it'll be kind of cool to get another.
I forgot what exactly I read, but I thought it was something along the lines of Wes Craven got the rights to Freddy back, and he doesn't know exactly what, but he wants to do a show again or another movie or something now.
Well, so, there is a TV show. It might be out already, or it might be just coming out, but, it's going to be based off of Freddy. And Jason kind of already has one, too. It's loosely based off of Jason. But then again, so many horror movies are based off of Jason. You throw a hockey mask on a guy, and all of a sudden they got a whole different movie. But it's kind of weird. So, how was your weekend? What did you guys do?
Nothing as cool as you. I just worked all weekend.
Well, I did the same for Nate.
Unofficially, if none of my bosses are watching, I might have gotten a nap or 2 in, but
it won't come
none of the bosses
next
are watching. Well, yeah. So as of last video that we did, the last podcast, I was going out to Waterloo, Iowa on Thursday, and it was a 3-day event. But I came home last night. kind of stretched out a little bit. But yeah, so Thursday, me and the wife, we took off to Waterloo. It took about 5.5 hours. But we got there and checked into our hotel right before they opened up the doors to the Tragos Thesz Hall of Fame building. Well, actually, it was at the Dan Gable Museum. But it was, the first night was kind of calm and collective. You know, it was just basically socializing. Everyone was getting together. You know, they always order a shit ton of pizzas, and they have beer and soda for everyone. And you know, they kind of go over what to expect through the weekend. And there was already legends roaming around. You know, so it was already pretty cool. You know, to have a lot of the Hall of Famers. Well, the people that are going into the Hall of Fame this year was roaming around too. You know, Arn Anderson was roaming around, and Tony Gurria was roaming around. But basically, it was just a chill evening. You know, letting everyone come in. They did do a small podcast while we were there, and they had. I had a couple people on it. They had the Cuban assassin on it, and they had one other guy doing it as well. But it was just a laid-back podcast, and they were kind of talking about what has changed in the wrestling business, their era versus now. And, you know, they were all pretty much, it was Joey D'Amico or Joe D'Amico. Malenko, yeah, sorry. He was the other guy on it. And they were talking, you know, basically that there's no tension, no storyline. And one of the guys said an amazing quote. They said it's a match ends on the mat. So why do flippity floppity things in the air when you still have to go on the mat to win the match? So just stay on the mat. You know, it's just a sign of them saying wrestle in the ring. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff. And we all see it. You know, if you catch YouTube shorts or even the TikToks now, everyone's posting all these incredibly insane stuff where people, you know, it was just last week where this guy caught himself on fire and couldn't put himself out in one of the matches. And then I heard there was a GoFundMe now for him because he's got all these medical bills due to his, you know, burning of the skin. So why do the stupid shit? I seen one today where this guy was again with light tubes, you know, just busting them over each other's head. And one guy got pissed off because he got too many light bulbs busted, so he just went berserk and just busted you know, so many over the other guy's head. And then they showed his face, and he was like, you know, cut so far and so deep, and just blood was just running. Like, you know, we don't get paid nearly enough to do that stupid shit and have, you know, going to the hospital, getting that shit stitched up, or fixing an arm. Now, so you're actually playing the main event of Saturday night's wrestling show.
Because of the
We can, I'll just throw some stuff out there. So this was Brock Anderson and Wes Briscoe. Now, originally, they had a match where they were going against each other. And, you know, their fathers, respectively, were in each corner. And it was a good, you know, match, you know, going tit for tat for move to move. But then this tag team came out and started picking on their dads. And after a while, they finally realized that, you know, they had their dads cornered, and they were, I think they were actually already shooting on them. But so they stopped their match, slid out, and started taking care of this tag team. and then the ref actually counted everyone out because it was past the 10 seconds. So they got back, West got back in the ring and demanded that the people in the audience deserved a match with him and Brock, and that they should actually team up and go against this tag team in the main event. And that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. So, in the background, you can see Arn and you can see Wes's dad, Jerry Briscoe, roaming around. But they're taking care of this tag. I didn't catch the names. It's a little weird, So, St. Louis wrestler going there. I'm in the locker room. I really don't know anyone except for James Beard, who's the referee for this match. I did know Jeremy Wyatt was there, so I talked to him for a few seconds. Rory Fox was there, so I did talk to him. But there's like the rest of the card was all different people that I've never met. So basically, I just was watching the rest of the show through the curtain. Now, I was supposed to actually have a match that night, but I didn't. Some things got messed up, I guess, and they ended up adding me into.
All right, well, Jim is frozen, guys. If you want to go to Jim's YouTube page, he has this and full audio and everything. I just clipped the audio just so, Jim can explain it. Bobby can make commentary on it also. But if you go to the Big Texan Hoffarth at YouTube, you can watch this match.
Can you guys still hear me?
Now we can. But you froze and then you were gone, so I found him to go to your page.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I don't know what part do you stop. Where was I just talking about this match?
Yeah.
I think you were starting to say that they threw you into the Battle Royal.
Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't when I got there on the sheets. I wasn't on there. So I asked one of the promoters. I see that I'm not having a match. I thought I was supposed to, but instead of having a match, since they had 11 matches that night, which is like kind of crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. So they just threw me into the Battle Royal, which is fine. It's a Thesz Battle Royal, just like our Bruiser Brody Battle Royal. So I was happy with that. I did eliminate, I think it was 5 people that I threw over. But then they kind of ganged up on me. I was like one of the biggest guys in the ring, of course. So it took a few of them to actually dump me over. But I did get eliminated. But not after I got some chops in, you know what I'm saying? But so it was a good night. But they had some good matches, some crazy matches too. Talking about one of the matches, respectfully, a lot of people didn't like it per se. They did have it was 2 tag teams, and they were champions of their respective promotions. One of the promotions was, of course, Impact Pro, which was holding the show, and then there was another promotion. I can't remember the name of it, but both champions were unifying the belts in this match. Impact Pro champions were 2 guys, and this other organization, their champions were 2 girls. So it was actually a tag match between 2 girls and 2 guys.
Is that these twin girls?
Huh?
Is that these twins girls that her posted?
Yes. So, it was different, because old school wrestlers, we prefer guys against guys, girls against girls. And so a lot of people had opinions on it. But I do say that the girls were pretty good. They had a lot of moves that they did, and they looked like a really good tag team. On that note, I don't know how to take them going against 2 guys because the guys are taller. They I mean, they were guys. So, and the guy tag team were actually heels, and they were baby faces. So it was a little weird because the guys had to cheat. Um, they were guys, and they went against the girls, and the girls won. So the girls actually united both tag team championships, which is props to them. It was just a little weird. Um,
A lot weird.
but yeah. Then again, Herb did like the match enough to invite them to SICW, so look forward to them coming eventually down the line, along with Brock Anderson.
I say they're two cute little things that they're welcome to the locker room,
But Brock Anderson.
They like they've been watching anyway.
Yeah, so Brock Anderson might be coming here. Herb sent feelers out to them and was talking to him. Arn, his dad, has already been here. So him and Herb already know each other. So it's kind of cool that we might get to see Brock Anderson coming through SICW. And also Shelton Benjamin. He was there.
Awesome.
That would be totally awesome. And you know what? I got to say, Shelton Benjamin on TV looks very short and very small. But in person, that guy is built and he is big. So it's the difference that the TV makes. But he is definitely a built guy. And
Well, that's what a lot of people overlook. Him and Lesnar used to train together in college. He used to whoop Lesnar's butt in some amateur wrestling.
So, and they used to be a tag team in OVW, and they were the new Minnesota Wrecking Crew. They took the names off of Arn and Ole.
I actually saw it not too long ago, I believe on YouTube. They had a dark match on WWE with it as well.
Oh, yeah, I bet. But kind of jumping around here or there. But Rory Fox actually made it pretty long in the Battle Royal. He didn't win it. I couldn't tell you who won it because I didn't know the guy. But Brock Anderson was very nice. Just shook his hand, introduced myself and stuff. But Wes, Wes Briscoe, I've met him many a times. Been in the same locker room with him, and he's always a very nice guy. Of course, our friend James Beard was the referee for that night. So it was kind of cool to see James again. Let's see here. I can hear you mumbling, but I can't make out what you're saying.
Said as many times as I met Wes, I never considered him a wrestler. He was just always too nice.
Who, Wes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know what he was on one of the podcasts too, and he was talking about his days in OVW and being one of the first, I can't say the first. He was a champion for FCW. FCW was right before WWE turned it into NXT. But he was talking about how he was a champion of that. That's Kurt Angle's singlet. That's actually the singlet he won when he won one of those gold medals. And that's actually one of his gold medals too. He donated both to the museum. So I think there's a picture of one of he had a pair of shoes there as well. That TV guy, that just talks about him. But so Thursday it was just basically a get together, kind of tell everyone what we were going to do. So normally Friday would be the wrestling show, and then Saturday would be the Hall of Fame. Everyone get inducted. But due to the Hall of Famers that were going in this year, Tony Schiavone and Arn Anderson, they kind of had to switch it up because Tony had to do AEW Saturday night. So they moved that to Friday. So Friday, they opened up the museum, and then that's when they had a meet and greet for the legends, so the regular fans can come in and get their pictures and autographs signed with the legends. and that's Jazz was there, Sergeant Slaughter was there, Lou Thesz's widow was there, Brody's widow, Barbara Goodish was there. Um, let's see, Tony Gurria was signing. All the people that are going into the Hall of Fame were signing. And then they had the scrimmage, that game that all the wrestlers used to play back in the day. Of course, Bob Orton Jr. played that, and Bob won it. So, I've never learned how to play that game, but that's one thing Bob Orton is very good at. He plays it at the CAC, and they just now started doing that there. And of course, the first time they have it, he wins it.
I played it a few times. My wife taught me how, and I'm not very good at counting the points like you're supposed to. I leave a lot on the table.
All I know is that when Bob shows up, stop playing because you're going to lose.
Right. Hands
Fair
down.
enough.
But they also opened up the silent auctions. Now, these were different things that people brought in or donated to the museum before. And we talked about it, how when a wrestler works in Japan, they get and they go eat at this steak place, they get a jacket from them. And it's like total tradition that if you're an American wrestler, you go eat at this particular Japanese steak place, and they give you a jacket. Well, Lou Thesz's jacket was in the silent auction, along with different programs from different shows. Were you going to say something? No? So there's different programs, there's different autographed pictures, and not really pictures, posters that were autographed. And some of these posters were autographed by 20, 25 people. There was the original Four Horsemen picture that was autographed by all of them. There's different collections of books. There was different action figures that were out there that were being autographed. Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a 2x4 that he autographed and wrote a little statement on that they were trying to not auction off, but a silent auction. I placed a bet on one. Amy placed a bet on one as well. We'll get back to that towards the end. So it was kind of cool. The regular fans got to bet on these things as well. They got to, meet and greet with the legends. There was Greg Gagne was there, of course, because he was going into the Hall of Fame. But he also did not really a seminar, but it was basically a discussion about the Powertown wrestlers. Him and a few other guys created a company for action figures, and they're bringing back all the old action figures. We previously talked about it before because that's who I got the Bruiser Brody from, and the Stan Hansen action figure. They're Powertown action figures, and there's many more. There's Vern Gagne, and there's Lou Thesz, the Kerry Von Erich, and then they made a special Kerry Von Erich that just is like a chase, where they changed the outfit, but and they came out with that one due to the movie The Claw, coming out. They went ahead and tried to take advantage of the movie coming out and doing this. But what's really cool about Powertown wrestling, or the action figures, is they go to the family. Say if the wrestler is still alive, they'll go to them and they'll try to ink a deal with him. That way, they give him a cut of all the wrestling figures of his figure that they sell. Kind of like Bruiser Brody's widow, Barbara. She gets a cut of all the Bruiser Brody figures it sells. And, I've heard this before, and Barbara said it before. Bruiser Brody, there's so many T-shirts out there, so many things out there with his image on it, but she doesn't get paid for any of that. They just take his likeness and do what they want with it. Well, Powertown is actually going around to the family members like a Barbara Goodish, signing a deal with them. Whatever action figures that they make of the wrestler, they get a portion of it. So she's actually getting a portion of how many sell of the Bruiser Brody ones, which is very cool. But they talked about how each mold for these action figures, the mold itself costs $27,000. Yeah, because each figure is unique. Unlike WWE action figures, where they'll take the same mold of the body or the arms or the legs and just throw a different head on. Well, each body is totally different because they sculpt it to the way that person was in real life. So if, like Bruiser Brody's one, he had a whole bunch of cuts on his forehead. Well, that action figure has a whole bunch of cuts on his forehead. He's definitely taller than a lot of wrestlers, so that action figure is taller than the other ones. And he went through it all and has explained everything, and that what they plan to do in the future, how they're planning on eventually down the road coming out with tag teams and some female wrestlers, which they have one. There's a new series coming out, Series 2, and they have one female wrestler, and it's Medusa. And she's already advertising it, saying it's coming out soon. But Tito Santana, the funny thing is, in this room where all the fans could sit and listen to him, all the legends were in there too. So Tito Santana was in there, Barbara Goodish was in there, Charlie Thesz, Lou Thesz's widow, was in there. Bob came in and out. So Tito talked about how he is not in Series 2, but he's going to be in one of the series, either 3 or 4, because his is already scheduled to start coming out. So it's just kind of cool that, and they were sitting where the fans were. They weren't sitting with Greg Gagne, at the head of the room or anything like that. They were just, that's what's really cool about this place. Kind of like the CAC, the legends just roam around freely. The fans know that there's a time and a place for autographs and pictures, and that time, was set up. So if you ask, Tito Santana for an autograph, he would tell you, oh, you gotta wait until that time, because, they're charging for it. Everyone, like when Herb brought in 60 plus legends, Herb is out of pocket for all that, and he kind of makes up with it when they sit down and sign. So all the fans pretty much knew that they had their slots to where they can go and get pictures and autographs from them. So the rest of the time, the legends were just able to roam around freely and, talk and socialize and, befriend everyone. And that makes it really cool because they're not, snobbing people because, they don't want to talk to you. They want to talk to you because they already know that at 2:30, that's when you can come back and get your autograph. So it was very cool. Let's see what else. So Friday was the Hall of Fame ceremony, and it's always a nice dinner. So we all sat down, and we had, I think it was a certain type of pork and chicken, and we just had the works with it. It was an awesome dinner, and then the Hall of Fame ceremony started. We all got a little catalog book of who went into the Hall of Fame. Of course, we already knew going into who was going in. But I tell you, I don't watch a whole lot of AEW. But when Tony Schiavone, I probably pronounce it Schiavone, went up there for his award, and he talked about his story of how he got involved in the wrestling. It was just a throwback to Nitro. Just hearing him speak and talk, it's just bringing back all the memories of watching Nitro. It's so cool. But he was actually announcing for baseball and other sports, and he begged the people that he worked for to allow him to switch and become an announcer for wrestling, because he said he was a fan of wrestling as a child, and that's all he really wanted to do. But eventually he met some of the wrestlers, and of course one thing led after another, and then he was able to switch, and he just quit doing the sports and went straight into wrestling. And he talked about being under the learning tree from JR and Gordon Soley. He said he was able to meet and work with Gordon Soley before he passed away, and that it was so cool that it was like full circle that he won that he was in for the Gordon Soley Award. I would say hands down acceptance speeches. Dan, did I get it right? Yeah, Dan Frye. He was great. Do you guys ever? There was a movie with Billy Bob Thornton in it where he plays like, forgive me for using the word, but a retarded guy who talked like,
Sling Blade.
Sling Blade. Oh my God.
Want some of them French fried taters?
Yeah, that was Dan Frye's voice, and I all I could think of when he was talking was French fried taters. You know, just that is just awesome. But he told a story about how his truck broke down on the way to the airport, and he had to rely on one of his daughters to come pick him up. And then he explained, like his oldest daughter was doing really good, that she is a graduate from yada yada school and got a doctorate and was certified this, but then he finished it off with, but she is certified in pole dancing right now, so you can meet her anytime you want. And just out of the blue, started talking about his daughter being a pole dancer. You know, and that he was proud of her because she almost beat his ass when she came up to help him with the truck, because she's got the same attitude that he does. And the day we were going to go to fisticuffs, you know, and then he talked about his other daughter and didn't say anything bad about that daughter, you know, but it was just funny because just out of the blue, he's telling us how, you know, he had to call her to come save him because his truck broke down. But yet you can see her pole dancing because she's a certified pole dancer. But man, it was great. But he talked about his right. He talked about his time in Japan wrestling, and so he actually was doing Pride first because he said he was doing the MMA stuff first. And one of the, I think he said Antonio was the one that came and convinced him to switch over to Japan Japan Pro Wrestling, and you know, that's how he got involved in the wrestling. But he said that Japanese style wrestling is known to be stiff, but he said that he said the name, but it was in Japanese, and he said that means the stiff white one. Because they said that you know, he was even stiffer than they were, and that's because, you know, he came from the, you know, the MMA background, and he said he had a hard time of transitioning. So they said that he was very stiff when he was a wrestler. But on a kind of a sad note, you can tell his body is pretty beat up because he was walking hunched over and was wearing a back brace, and he's bow-legged, so it's you know, he's still getting around. Don't get me wrong, but you can tell that his body, you know, he put his body through some punishment. But yeah, hands down, he was very good. Tito Santana talked. You know, he was another one that had a bad time coming there because he was supposed to get a flight from New York to Waterloo. But something happened and he got delayed, and then they ended up getting him a flight from New York to Chicago, then from Chicago to Waterloo, and he had been up since 3 a.m. to be at the airport when his original flight was supposed to go. And he literally got there like a half hour to 45 minutes before the dinner started. So he was very tired, but he talked about his time in wrestling, talked about him being a school teacher, and that's what the award that he was going in for. He was he got the actual Lou Thesz Award. Greg Gagne, he went in as well, and Greg, talked about his dad a lot, and how his dad was a trainer, and his dad moved them around a lot from Texas to Chicago and all around, and then ended up in Minnesota, or was it Minnesota and Minneapolis? I think it was Minneapolis. But talking about how he had to move around as a kid, and he wanted to be a professional baseball player, and then he went to college for it, got a scholarship for being a baseball player, and that was his goal. And then he talked about how he came home one summer, and every summer he would come home, and him and his dad would just move all the furniture out of the front room and wrestle each other. And he said this one summer, he came home and he got his dad with a back elbow, and popped him pretty good. And so his dad bear hugged him and squeezed him to death, he said. And he didn't know it, but when he went back to school, he had this pain in his rib cage area. And so the baseball coaches were asking him, what's going on? And he goes, well, I'm pretty sure my dad broke my ribs. And so they went and had him x-rayed, and sure enough, his dad had broke 3 of his ribs when he came home, for that summer.
Did Greg ever say why? Did Greg say why Vern moved him around all the time? Was it just to follow the promotion, or was it for a different reason?
It was because the promotions, So he started in Chicago, and he said that his dad, this promotion in Chicago, wanted his dad to be on the TV because he was a legitimate wrestler, because he went to the Olympics and everything. And so since his dad had that legitimate background, they wanted him on the TV all the time. However, they only had a heavyweight championship, and they said that he was too small to be a heavyweight champion. And so they kind of lent him out, and he ended up in Texas, and he ended up winning their light heavyweight championship. And so they would bring him back to TV with that belt, being a light heavyweight champion. And, we talked about before how Lou Thesz always saw Vern Gagne as a smaller guy and never would give him a shot truly at the heavyweight championship. And that's why Vern broke off from the NWA and started his own promotion. Of course, he was a heavyweight champion a few times for that promotion. But that's another story. I think we covered that too sometime. Tony Garea, he had probably the longest speech. But Tony, he gave so great details about, wanting to be a wrestler in New Zealand, and his dad said, you're too small, so he went to the gym and focused on his body and building it up, and then finally getting a chance to go to the U.S. and actually wrestle, and talked about all of his territory days, going to California, New York, Florida. So it was kind of like really in depth of his life. So that was kind of cool. It was very long, though, I'll tell you that. Tom Prichard, he got the training award, and he was very simple. It was less than 5 minutes his acceptance speech. However, the person that inducted him was JBL. Now, hands down, JBL was the best person to give the introduction to the Hall of Famers that were going in. The guy that we talked about that came up with the books, charting the territories, he was the very first one, and he was talking about um, how every wrestler was not who he truly said they were, and how he, in his books, was trying to get all the information out to the fans about how, like, he even said Baron von Raschke was never really a Baron. Yes, he was. He has some German in him, but he wasn't a full German. And he was just telling stories about this, and he said Dr. Tom Prichard, the guy who's going in the Hall of Fame, is really not a doctor. Someone just gave him a nickname, the doctor. But if anyone around him were to get in an accident, Dr. Tom wouldn't be able to do anything that a doctor would. With drugs
Al
and all
had to
this
say
stuff.
Al had to say this stuff.
Yeah, but it was, me. I'm saying it out of, when you
So
take a portion
he's
of.
being out of context, or was he being facetious or
Yeah.
serious?
It was great what he was talking about.
Oh,
But what
okay.
I'm saying this is just to lead into JBL's, because the first thing JBL said when he got up there, he goes, he said the guy's name. What was that guy's name again? Jim. He goes, Jim, I don't know what you're talking about. Dr. Tom not being a doctor, because he sure does know his drugs, and he just immediately started going into, how. Uh, how he was an experience with certain drugs, and it was just funny as fuck. And he also told this story, and I have it videotaped, but it was too long to send to you. And we got to get a better way to send each other videos, because I would have loved to play this. Because he talked about how traveling back in the days, they would try to get 3 or 4 people into a car, and they would rent a car. One of them would rent a car, and they would just try to cram as many people as they could, and they would all share their cost. And he said that one night, it was JBL, it was the Godfather, and he mentioned someone else being in the car with him, and JBL said that he spotted Tom Prichard in a car in a parking lot. And Godfather told JBL, you should go hit him, with JBL's car, because they were rental cars. And JBL said, I don't know if I should. And Godfather goes, hit him. So he fucking, raced the car and smacked him right in the front of the car of Dr. Tom Prichard's car. And he backed up and said something out the window, and Godfather goes, hit him again. And so he backed up more and then smashed back into the car. And then JBL goes, and then I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. And then he goes, Prichard squealed out into the road, got out of the car, and was screaming and yelling at him. He goes, God damn it, JBL, quit it. And JBL goes, why? What's wrong? And Tom Prichard goes, this is my personal car. So JBL had a rental car. He was just smashing into Tom Prichard's personal car. So the stories, like I said, the stories that these guys tell is amazing. I got more videos because Saturday they were doing the other podcast that I was talking about. So JBL and Joe Briscoe has their podcast that they do once a week that comes out on YouTube. Well, since Arn Anderson was going into the Hall of Fame, that was their guest in their podcast, and JBL was telling some crazy stories in that thing too. But Tito was amazing. Tony, like I said, just reminded me of watching Nitro as soon as I heard his voice. Jim, I can't see it. Melby, that guy. Jim Melby Award. That was the award. Al Getz was the guy's name. I'm so sorry for that. I did tell you that I wanted to meet him and I wanted to buy one of the books. I did buy one of the books, Charting the Territories. He was mainly doing north, east, and he did one in the south, and he did one in the the Heartland. So I got the Heartland, but this only covers the 71 to 73. And believe it or not, his new book that covers 74 to like 76, I believe, came out today. He didn't have any in the new books though. So I did pick up this one, and I tell you, it is like really detailed with graphs and everything about different wrestlers from the Heartland. And of course, it's got Harley Race on the cover as well. So I'm looking to get into that. You know, I skimmed through some of the pages when I had time after I bought the book, but you know, this guy is very detail oriented. And he said that he also was able to talk to a lot of the wrestlers still, or family members from that time period, and that's how he got some of the information. You know, some wrestlers are like that, where they will actually write down who they wrestled, when did they wrestle, and he was able to get some of that information from the family members and from some of the wrestlers that were still alive. Let's see here. So the last but not least is Arn Anderson. And Brock Anderson inducted his father. And I tell you, Brock talked about how growing up with Arn Anderson being a father, that even though he was such in demand, he still made time to come home and do the birthdays and do the vacations. But he said it was very hard too, because he's still on the road, 350 days a year. So it's a matter of him having the family close by. That as soon as he got done wrestling, he was able to see them, hang out, and then leave again, or vice versa. But and he said growing up with Arn being his father was what made him pursue wanting to be a wrestler. And of course, his dad was able to give him good training. Like I said on the last podcast, he was in AEW, but Brock and Arn both have now separated from AEW. So he's kind of on the free market, and I think that's why we might be able to get him in. The pre-talks have happened, so it's just about timing. A lot of this is they like to hit us 3 or 4 places. Like the Canadian guy that wrestled for us on the TV program, the last TV shows. He was just coming from south, and he was working his way back up to Canada. So he was just stopping off at different places to try to make the trip worth it. If he can stop off at this place on Wednesday, one place on Thursday, us on Friday, he can make more money that way. Yeah, that dinner was awesome. Listening to these guys talk was great. Hands down, that was the highlight. Then, like I said, Saturday during the day, it was a lot of podcasts that you can go in there and listen. Thunderbolt Patterson, he was just inducted into WWE Hall of Fame. He was on a podcast. Baron von Raschke was on a podcast. They talked about how Thunderbolt Patterson was from Waterloo, Iowa, and so Saturday he actually got awarded the keys to the city. And then they also made Baron von Raschke Day as well, and they called it the Claw Day. So they both were kind of awarded stuff.
Yeah, Bobby's audio's out.
I say I can hear you guys now.
Oh, okay.
Well, hopefully you guys caught all that, because I was just running my mouth so fast.
No, I did.
They still unrecorded, so as long as you can hear it.
It seems like go-to's update wasn't very good. We're having more complications. Because it's probably based on Microsoft crap.
I say, as long as you could hear it, you're the one recording, so it should be fine.
Right.
That's why the flights were delayed, because of Microsoft security update went worldwide and caused a lot of problems.
Well, so coming down to Saturday night, that was the night of the wrestling. And so it started with all the legends, being there as well, so all the fans can go and get their pictures and get their autographs. And there was a lot of cool stuff. I picked up a couple wrestlers. There was a guy selling. I told you guys before that I watch a lot of YouTube, and there was this episode of this guy that was in Mexico, and he was picking up. Mexico has a lot of what's the word? It's not the legit stuff. It's a fake thing, but
knockoff.
What?
Like a knockoff?
Knockoff, yes. So this guy was selling these Mexican knockoffs, and they look pretty cool. So I picked one of those up, and then I picked up an old AWA guy from Remco, and so I picked up some action figures, and then they also announced who won the silent auctions, and Amy had won her silent auction. And when I tell you, I mean, she did it for me. When I tell you she won a stack of books, she won a stack of books. I'm just going to go through some of them. One book is on Bret Hart, Dan Hodge, so that's going to be pretty cool. A little book on Baron von Raschke, wrestling in general. This is the one I started today, was Gotch. I love the Lou Thesz book called Hooker, and this guy is in the same time period, a little bit before Thesz, but this is the one I started today. Of course, one that I already have in my collection, but always good. I have one autographed, so now I got this one that I could not have to worry about bending the pages or anything. But Harley Race. A little weird one. This one's on sumo wrestling. But, it doesn't hurt to learn all the tricks and trades. This one says wrestling to wrestling. Basically going from the old school style to more of an entertainment style. And I didn't have this one either because, I tell you the truth, I wasn't a Jericho fan for a long time. I liked a little bit of the Y&J when he was Y. What was he called, Bobby, when he first came to WWE?
Y2J.
Y2J. Wasn't a fan of him in like pre-WCW days. Not pre, but in his WCW days. I didn't start to really like him until he actually left WWE, and he was in AEW. Not that I watched him in AEW, but that's when he actually started coming out and telling stories. And even though he was in AEW, he came on the Stone Cold podcast, and so that was kind of weird. Two different wrestlers coming together on a podcast, and it's been done since then. But so I got this one. Now, this one talks about a wrestler, it's Jesse Ventura. But this one, Jesse Ventura for the longest time had one of those conspiracy theory programs. And so this one is some conspiracy. It says 63 documents the government doesn't want you to read. So that would be a little interesting.
If they didn't want you to read it, you couldn't read it.
This one, I didn't think had anything to do with wrestling. It says Touch and Go, The Travels of Children's Book Illustrator Ted Lugan. But if you read the back, it talks about how he was a wrestler. And then he became an author of books. And so it kind of goes over his story from when he was a wrestler until he changed careers and becoming oh, you know what? There's actually two more. I'm going to back this thing up for just a second.
Back it up.
I was trying to find the quote. There's a Japanese wrestler that wrestled Danny Hodge when he was still in amateur wrestling, and he had the defect that where he had muscles on top of his muscles in his hands, and that's why there's actual videos of him just crushing apples.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact quote, but it was along the lines of like, he was excited to wrestle against him, and then the match started, and he grabbed him, and he just wished he was dead.
Yeah, they talked about that. How he used that as intimidation. Right before he would start a match or something, he would pull out an apple. And we're not talking about how it is now, where it's a wrestling ring and the fans, it was inside of it.
I'm talking like the Olympic style wrestling.
Oh,
Like he was wrestling in that style still. And this guy's like, as soon as he grabbed me, I wished for death.
But when he switched over from amateur to professional, uh, he used to do that as an imitation, intimidation, where he would grab, because this was back when they were wrestling in barns for actual money. They would go to a town and then challenge whoever was the strongest guy in that town, and they had to, they would get so much money to this guy in this town if he can survive so many minutes with the wrestler, and so it was his job. Well, it was his job to get this guy to tap out or submit, and sometimes they would just, some of the books you read, they would actually shoot and try to break an arm or break a bone to get the guy to tap out, because the faster they could do that, they would more time they would have to invite more people into the ring and do it some more, and the promoter would pay them more money, especially if they won, instead of having that local town hero guy, challenge this professional and win. That would be the last thing that they want. I'm interested in this one just because it looks like a very old book. This is it goes off of Clarence Eklund. He was a world light heavyweight wrestling champion from 1928 to 1930. So I'm kind of interested in this one, and it's territory, the Wyoming territory. And in this one, it says hard boys and bad girls, but it's a wrestling book too, so it's a little different, but definitely a stack of books that she was able to get for me, because I love to read, and I love to read autobiographies and stuff. So I'm going to be tied up reading for quite some time.
I don't know, that last book seemed like it's just a picture book, though.
I see you smirking over there on that last one. We've seen movies with that title.
Yep. I'm trying to be nice.
Hands down, it was a great weekend. If you're just a fan and coming in, and they allow fans to buy packages to be able to do everything, go to the dinner, listen to them get inducted, go to the wrestling show, do all the podcasting stuff. So I mean, so if you're a fan or if you're a wrestler, worker, anyone in the business, I would definitely recommend going to something like this. This was the 25th year anniversary. I don't know how long CAC has been around. I should look into that. That's coming up too next month.
Well, Bobby's a lifetime member. He should know.
What's the question?
How long has the CAC been around?
A long time. Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it. Okay. But Gerald Briscoe is the president of this, the Hall of Fame. It actually talks about who else is in part of it. Let me see if I can flip to the pages here. Yeah, so Gerald Briscoe, Chad Olson, he was actually the one that was like the DC that night.
When I say a long time, I meant to say 1967.
Oh, 1967? Damn.
Yeah.
I did not think it's been around that long. So that's awesome. Troy Peterson, of course, is involved in that. Conrad Thompson, he's on the board, and he just got inducted last year for being for the podcasting. Gloria Lowell And James Beard is actually a member on the board for this one. And it's just a great weekend. It's a Thursday through Saturday. I totally recommend staying Saturday night and just leaving on a Sunday. We had a great time. Um, Waterloo, Iowa is a very small town. So whatever you want to do is like in walking distance. The main hotel, you're 2 blocks away from the museum. You're 3 blocks away from this cool ass diner that we normally eat at. It's a mom and pop diner, and they serve a lot of food. It's cheap. It's better than McDonald's or some shit like that. Um, I think it's 6 blocks away from the old NWA headquarters. Well, one of the offices for the NWA. So I mean, it's everything you want to do for wrestling is in a walking distance. They feed you. Of course, you're at the hotel. You're going to get breakfast anyway at the hotel because it's free. They're going to give you 2 dinners. Thursday night they feed you dinner. Friday night they feed you this awesome dinner. So it's a great weekend. And then Saturday was the wrestling show with all the legends that were in there. And all the legends stuck around until the end of the wrestling show. So even through intermission or through the matches, if you notice the line slowed down, you go up and talk to Tito or talk to JBL. Joe Briscoe was there. Arn Anderson was there. Like I said, Jazz was there. Sergeant Slaughter was there. Baron Von Raschke, Thunderbolt Patterson was there. Les Thatcher was there. He was back in the day wrestler, but he was a trainer for the longest time. If you remember when we had Rory Fox on our podcast, he was trained by Les Thatcher. There was so many people. It was great. But yeah, so if you're a wrestling fan, I would say next year, get on Facebook is where you can get tickets for it. It's like an up and close version of the CAC is the best way I can explain it. CAC, you got the lights, the cameras, the glitz, with being on the strip. But there's a lot of stuff you can do in Vegas. Where this one is more up close. There's only a handful of things you can do, so everyone's doing it together.
So what do you think? What do you think the chances are of us getting Brock and the others that were
Very
reached out
good
to?
chance.
What's that?
Yeah, very good chance. Shelton Benjamin, I think, would be great to have in. And like I said, he is officially on the independents. His contract is now done with the WWE, which they announced, 3 more people today that they got, kind of let their packaging go. MVP was one. Snuka, his daughter, I forgot her first name.
Tamina.
But, yeah, she was let go. And then, another one that I was kind of shocked that they're letting go. He's another big black guy, been a WWE champion multiple times, TNA champion, but his name's
Bobby Lashley?
Bobby Lashley. Kind of shocked they're letting him go.
Well, he's never had personality is his biggest issue.
Yeah, but they used him as he was pretty good in that group with Shelton Benjamin and MVP when they were the Hurt Business or the Hurt. Yeah, I think it was the Hurt Business.
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. That was my other thing I was thinking. But I was thinking, man, that's a movie. But but yeah, so that was a cool group. And so yeah, basically they were letting that whole group go. Shelton just happened to be the first one that they let go. But they kind of mentioned, too, that most of them are in their late 40s now. And they're thinking that that's the reason why. Because even before Shelton was let go, they also let that he was another former WWE champion. Gosh, man, what is his name?
Jinder Mahal.
He is, Jinder. They let him go, and he is ripped, crazy ripped. His physique, but again, too, he's in his late 40s, and I think Bobby Lashley. I think he has turned 50, or he's in his low 50s. But man, he still looks like a freak too. But it sounds like
You're great.
they're letting some of the older wrestlers go to kind of make room for the newer ones, which I get. But man, Shelton Benjamin, he is amazing. If you ever watch any of his matches, I mean, he can still go. And his match with Shawn Michaels is a classic. His matches when he was part of Team Angle, when he was part with Kurt Angle and Charlie Haas, I think. And that whole group was great too. There was this perfect match with him and Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels does that super kick. Well, there's a move that Shelton would do off the top rope, not on the corner either. He would actually slide down the rope, kind of like AJ Styles does with that forearm. He would do it as well. And so just imagine Shawn Michaels being on the mat, further away from you, kind of like towards the opposite rope that you're standing on, and then you come jumping off of it, and Shawn Michaels pops up real quick and fucking super kicks you while you're in the mid-air, and then you immediately just fall backwards. The force of that super kick, just throws you backwards. It was a amazing match, and that spot was crazy. But
in 5 minutes.
Yep. We'll wrap it up here in a minute. So yeah, again, great weekend. And Joe Briscoe has his hands in everything. You can definitely talk to him. And that's a legend that still holds records in WWE. How they on the TV programs, how they would give you a quarter hour and whole hour estimates of how many people are watching. Gerald Briscoe has the most people watched in a quarter of an hour in WWE's history. It was when he was doing this character with another older wrestler. They were called the Stooges, Vince McMahon's Stooges. That he has the most viewership, and it's a record that will never be beat. So I mean, and then like I said, now he's got his hands into this, which is great. And they're kind of like two entities, the CAC and the Hall of Fame, but yeah, they share the same people. And I say that because when you're at the Hall of Fame, you're going to see Brian Blair. You're going to see Rich Erling, which are the vice president and the president of the CAC. So you're going to see multiple people. And matter of fact, they even donated a check to the Hall of Fame from the CAC. So they bounce things back and forth. It's just two great Hall of Fames, I would say, because the CAC inducts people into their hall, and they induct people into their hall. But it's just a great weekend. And turn around, we got the CAC's coming up, and they got the likes of JR going in. They got Sting going in. I want to say it's been a while since I've seen the poster, but I want to say the Dudleys were going in too. I might be wrong on the Dudleys, but I know Sting. I know JR is going to be there. I know JBL is on the poster on it. But man, it's going to be crazy and that's at the end of this month. Well, mid of next month. So it's going to be a great weekend as well. Not even a weekend, because that's actually during the week. But that's going to be a great one. But before even that, August 3rd, SICW comes back to Collinsville at the Fireman's Hall. and we kind of know one of the matches. I don't know really none of the other matches except for me and Bobby. Me and Bobby were going against Attila and
Kowalski.
Kowalski. So that's going to be the main event. Now, Haku, our friend, is going to be there that night. He's going to be, I'm sure, a special guest that you can meet and greet. Last time he was in town, and not at our fan fest, but the last time he was in town wrestling, him and Attila went at it, and that was a bloody mess. So I'm hoping Haku is on mine and Bobby's side, just in case Attila gets a little out of hand, gets a little crazy or something, we can count in Haku to kind of help us out.
I've watched a lot of the other wrestlers' stories of Haku in the bars and whatnot. I don't want to be on the opposite side of him.
Right. And that's
just
what's great.
As long as you both promise me when the blood flies, you get some on the camera.
Haku was actually brought up this weekend about him being the nicest person that you want to talk to, be around, but you never want to piss off. You hear all the stories, and I don't want to find out if they're true or not. So far, I've always been on the good side of Haku, and I can tell you he is one of the nicest men that you ever want to meet. But I don't know about the other side because I refuse to be on the other side.
So you mentioned August 3rd, and I was thinking earlier you'd have all the books read by the end of August. But then I'm looking at the schedule, and we got 5 shows in August.
Oh, man.
We got August 3rd, the tapings on the 4th. Right. We got the Monroe County Fair on the 10th. We've got the Soho Apartments on the 17th, which is a private show. But then if the fans want to come, on the same day, we have the Worldwide Technologies Raceway. And then we got the Little Devil Show on the 24th.
Yeah, it is going to be crazy. And, that the 17th, the one at the Raceway, that's the Bomarito 500.
Yeah, the Indy cars.
Yeah, that is a great race to watch as well. So, and that's a Sunday. No, that is a Saturday. Or is it a Sunday? It's a Saturday. One of the race ones.
Let me double check.
One of the race ones, I guess it's the one in September, I think is on a Sunday.
I say Bomarito 500 is a Saturday, or whatever the August 17th is, if we mix them up. I know the other one is the NHRA Championships.
Yeah. The August 17th is a Saturday, and isn't the 24th the NHRA, or is that in September?
The other one's in September.
There's not one in September. That would be on the 14th.
Near a town, near everyone. If you're in the St. Louis area, Illinois area, you can catch us in Belleville, you can catch us in Collinsville, Waterloo, just Waterloo, Illinois, St. Louis, Missouri, Granite City, or is it? It's still not. I don't think it's called Granite City. Monroe, the Raceway. That's in Monroe County, right?
Yeah, it's in Monroe County because. Brian
I don't know what city it is.
The safety truck, the safety there.
Yeah. So a lot of wrestling shows coming up. But yeah, August the 3rd, we're back in Collinsville. That's the first one you can come and see us at. And like I said, special guest is Haku. That Saturday, you can buy the cheap tickets for the racing shows.
The Raceway is technically Madison.
Madison
is the city.
Waterloo is Monroe County. Okay, so
Monroe, Madison, Granite City is all in Monroe County.
Okay.
And so the Raceway is under St. Clair's control. When they went to go annex it, that's the dividing line is the Raceway.
Yeah, so like I said, August 3rd, you can meet Haku. You can watch us SICW Legends wrestle. You can also buy tickets for that race track one. It's a special discounted price. I can't tell you what the price is. I want to say it's $35, but don't quote me on it. But if you were to just buy tickets to the race, you're going to pay more than the $35. So buy your tickets for the race and the wrestling at the August 3rd show. That way you get that discount. But other than that, man, like we say always, please like, subscribe, and comment and share. I wasn't able to catch how many subscribers we have officially right now, but I noticed that the podcasts are slowly creeping up, viewership wise. So please, help us out. Like I said, I don't want to get into the details with the other stuff, but just if you see it, listen to us, tell us how we're doing, and then share away, please. Just help us break past these plateaus that we keep getting pushed in.
We're only three away from 400. So come on, people. Three more.
There we go. Hopefully by next Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday when we show the next episode, we'll have that 400 and pushing to 500, because that's always been our goal this whole past year. And we would love to see it. We're only 6 months into this year. So next, I think next Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, will be in August. So that would be, 7 months in. So help us get that goal before the end of this year. We'll be definitely pleased with it. But
one more thing I want to throw out there real quick. There's another thing that happened this past Saturday. First graduate of the Ace Cowboy Academy, your tranny, multiple-time guest on the podcast. Brandon made his NWA Exodus Pro Midwest debut and won.
Awesome.
Well, I'll toss this out at you, too. He's not an Ace Academy student, but he's come in a few times, and we've helped train him. Austin Melitello, I might have butchered his last name.
How do you got it that time?
He actually debuted in Ring of Honor. He didn't get the win, but he debuted in Ring of Honor over the weekend.
Nice.
And, of course, we got to throw out Joey. Joey and Brandon and Austin were both on AEW last Tuesday. They helped do security, but they were on TV. They were breaking apart Britt Baker and what's her name in AEW?
Monet.
Monet. She's not the boss no more. She's something else. What's her ring tag? I don't know, but they broke them up, and then also at the end when the Young Bucks came out and talking about who they were going to go against on this, was it a 6-pack match? It's 3 against 3, and was it Mr. Allen? What's his first name? Is it Dobie or
Darby?
What'd you say?
Darby Allin.
Darby Allin came out through the rafters, and then they got into a scuffle. And of course, Brandon and Joey and Austin had to help break that up too. So they got a lot of screen time, and that's all you can ask for when you're starting out as wrestlers. If you can get booked on a show, if you can get, even do security or any kind of extra work, that's your foot in the door. And the more feet that you can shove through that door on more than one occasion, the more that they'll know you, they'll know your name, and that's how you get your debut match on Ring of Honor, just like Austin did. So proud of all three of those guys. But that was very cool to see them on TV. And I hate to see it too, but if you watch AEW, it might have been Tuesday of last week or the previous Tuesday, you also seen Stephen E. in the crowd. So, he's watching all these other shows too. So you never know where someone like that is going to pop up. But Thank God he
Good.
had nothing to do with AEW. He
I was
was
like, good.
just
Let them go by
live
that and leave
in the crowd.
SICW alone.
Right, right. But okay. From everyone from the Squared Ring podcast, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. And like I said, please share. But another one down. On to the next one. I'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Have a good
Adios.
night.
One sec, Jeff. Well, you left.
Hey, gone.
Yeah, he on.